Time for Hope has had the privilege of having many gifted and insightful authors appear as our guests through the years. We have decided to rerun from time to time some of our past shows related to subjects that did and will again give our viewers the opportunity to be informed and inspired to accept the challenges they are currently experiencing in their lives. For meeting the challenge of resolving destructive conflict within marriages, Dr. Freda has chosen to rerun her interview with her friend Leslie Vernick as they discussed her book titled The Emotionally Destructive Relationship.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Time for Hope, a faith-based mental health program. Today, we're going to be talking with our guest, Leslie Vernick, a sought-after speaker, prolific author, and licensed clinical social worker, about her latest book, The Emotionally Destructive Relationship. The book is a powerful response to a need in the Christian community for a strong biblical perspective on forms of relational mistreatment other than physical abuse, and sets forth 5 distinct patterns that become destructive if left unchanged. But the good news is that change is possible, and this is the hope that we will be offering for stormy and painful relationships. Stay with us. And Leslie, we waited a long time for this. We've been working on getting you here for quite a while.
Well, I am just thrilled to be here with you, Freda.
It's really great having you. You know, I remember when your first book came out. I don't know how long ago that was, but I remember we were at a meeting and you told me about your book.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, so.
About 7 years ago? And you've written several since then,
yeah, this is my 5th one.
Your 5th one? And you've done a great job.
I feel like
on
I'm just
this
popping them out like
just
babies.
Popping them out like babies. It seems that's the way once you get started that, that it happens. You've really written on, and I think filled a niche that needed to be filled, not only in the Christian community, but with marriages in general, or relationships in general, the emotionally destructive relationship. We are so much about domestic violence, but as a general rule, most people believe and think that has to do with physical abuse and violence, but violence can be violent without even ever hitting someone or choking someone or pushing someone.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's lots of different ways to destroy something. We can do it with our fist, and we can do it with our words. In fact, you know, the Bible tells us that reckless words pierce like a sword, and the godless destroy their neighbors with their words. And so often we've taken the matter of verbal abuse, and we've sort of not taken it seriously. We've said, oh, well, it's just sticks and stones will break your bones. Let it run off your, you know, just let it run off your shoulders. Don't let it bother you. But words can really wound us, and verbal abuse, directly calling someone names, can be very damaging. But there's also other kinds of abuse that isn't so direct. Lying and manipulating, twisting information, misleading someone to think something's true when it's not, are using words in a very destructive way, and they may not be outwardly abusive or verbal abuse, but they can still be very destructive to a relationship.
Well, in a relationship, and especially in a marriage, just ignoring a person or neglecting them or failing to listen to them, failing to cooperate or, you know, get involved in the marriage, just that can be abusive.
Well, indifference is one of the 5 patterns that I talk about. And when we talk about a destructive relationship, certainly all of us are in relationships where there's patterns of, you know, we don't do everything the other person wants, and there's sin, and there's, you know, pain, and that's true of all human relationships. But what makes a relationship destructive is a repetitive pattern of one of these things, of indifference, or of lying, or of controlling behavior. And these things are a pattern that are resulting in someone either being torn down or inhibiting their growth. And it also is having no repentance, no lack of change, no remorse, and sometimes no awareness. Even when you say to someone, this hurts me, or I don't like it, or please stop doing this, they'll tell you they're not doing it, or you're imagining it, or it's your fault. And so there's no awareness of what they're doing that impacts this relationship in a destructive way.
I've actually seen it in situations where it goes even farther than that, wherein you can tell them it hurts you, or that you feel this way or you feel that way, and they just matter-of-factly tell you it doesn't, you know, they don't care, or it doesn't matter to them.
It absolutely does happen that way, and I think it's so important that we understand that just because someone's a Christian doesn't make them emotionally mature or spiritually healthy. And so for those who are listening who may not even be in a marriage but are just dating, I'm so passionate about teaching singles this concept, because a healthy relationship happens when you have three important ingredients: mutual caring, mutual respect, and mutual honesty. And without those three legs, you cannot have a healthy relationship. And the operative word there is mutual. You can be caring, respectful, and honest. And if the other person isn't willing to be those things, you cannot have a healthy relationship with that person.
You can have a relationship. I like the word healthy that you use. And you probably have experienced the same thing I have with clients that have been reared in pastors' homes, wherein the pastor himself that's telling everybody else how to behave and how to treat their family and so on and so forth is abusive within his own home.
One of the most, I think, damaging forms of emotionally destructive relationship is whether it's the pastor or the authority figure, and it can be a pastor, a boss, father, doesn't have to be necessarily a pastor, but someone who is very controlling. They may not use verbal abuse to maintain control. They may use the headship authority kind of thing, that I'm the boss, I'm the head, I get to do everything I want because God says I can. Mm-hmm. And it really is an entitlement for selfishness. You have to do it my way because I'm always right. Pride can really fuel that kind of thinking. And so everybody begins to lose trust in their own judgment, their own ways of things. And if they're children in that home, they never really develop. As clients, I see people who have never learned to think for themselves. They're always telling me, what should I think, or what should I do, or what do you think about this? Because they've not learned to look at the Bible themselves and learn to see what God has to say for themselves. And so they've been controlled by someone so long that they've been destroyed in that relationship.
And they haven't been allowed to express themselves, so they don't have any confidence in what they think or what they believe.
Right, or as soon as they try, they've been told they're stupid.
They've been told they're stupid, so there can be so much pain in that, and that's very destructive to one's self-esteem or one's self-appreciation.
Or their whole identity.
Their whole identity. Well, you know, I think what we need right now is to go out on break. I'm being told it's time for a break, and we've got so much to talk about on destructive relationships when we come back, Leslie.
Good.
And we will be right back.
If you're in a relationship with a crazy maker, rather than bemoaning how we've got the egotist, then we've got the control freak, we'll talk about the sufferer, I think, in a moment. We've got the borderline. And, you know, you may be saying to yourself, oh, Mom, my life is miserable because of what they are doing to me. No, if you stop for a moment and collect yourself and be prayed up and get really clear with your boundaries, then they're not going to make you crazy. You can be angry and you can be upset and you can say, I don't like, for example, the sufferer. The sufferer is one of the five crazy makers. The sufferer, as you know, says, oh, you know, there's nothing you can do for me. They're the Eeyores of the world, okay? And they get us sucked into trying to help them and fix them and so on. So you may be in a relationship with someone who's a sufferer who you're trying to fix, trying to help, trying to just find that right answer to their life. Yeah, and go ahead and shake your head there.
They can't be.
It won't work.
The more you do, the more they're going to want you to do.
They will be parasitic. They will suck the life out of you. And so, but again, rather than complain and bemoan this, you can say, you know what, I've got a woman right now I'm working with, and her mother is a card-carrying sufferer, and I am teaching her to say to her mother, you know, Mom, I'm going to come over and visit you, but I'm only going to stay for short periods of time, and I'm not going to talk about all the kids in the family and how you're upset with my brother, and how you're upset with my sister, and I'm not going to do that, Mom. So she is revolutionizing the relationship. She's come back to her sessions with me and said, it's working. It's working. When I tell Mom, if you start to drift into complaining about this, that, and the other, I'm going to leave. You know, I want to talk to you about good, wholesome, healthy things. She's transforming the relationship.
We always appreciate your joining us on Time for Hope. Our guest for today is Leslie Vernick, and we're talking about her book, The Emotionally Destructive Relationship. But as always, I want to share something from our viewer. Then we're going to turn back with this particular prayer request to our guest, have some directions for this viewer. Dear Dr. Freda, thank you for your continuing service to the hurting Christian. I have watched your show faithfully for about 5 years now. I am in a long divorce after a 30-year Christian marriage. The relationship was abusive on one side, enabling on the other. Mine. Much health and heart demise has been my burden. I have just ordered some resources again, for which I thank you. A deep conscience of righteousness and low self-esteem make validation an ongoing need for me and so many others. I love your show and look forward to it weekly. And of course, we always appreciate those kind remarks that are sent along with your prayer requests. Now, as I've already said, we're going to turn back to Leslie to help us with this. But before I do that, I want to encourage those of you who have not shared your requests with us to do so. We're always open to receive them, and we do the same thing with each and every one. We take them directly to our Heavenly Father. There is hope of healing. There is hope of change. There's hope of recovery. There's all kinds of hope when we take a situation to God in prayer. And if you haven't visited our resources or looked at our resources on our website, I would encourage you to do that also. Leslie, this one's loaded. It's got what we're talking about, no doubt.
Well, I loved how she said it had two sides. One is the abuser and then the enabler. And you know, when you are wanting to change, when you are wanting to get out of a destructive relationship, the very first thing actually that will help you is to recognize that change starts with you. And so she had to recognize her part of the destructive dance.
It sounded to me like, I have no way of knowing, it sounded to me like she has already gotten some professional help.
Well, that's right, because, well, or at least she's woken up, because she's realized when you're a repeated victim of a destructive person or a destructive relationship, you have to ask yourself, if you're going to get well, what's your part? Because when you're dancing with someone who's continuously stepping on your toes, and you're allowing that, then you have to say, well, why am I doing that? And so she's enabled him to continue to treat her that way. And so what she began to do, apparently, is saying, I will not allow myself to do that anymore. Because the only person you can change is you. So the beginning of your healing is when you say, I will not allow myself to participate in this destructive dance like this any longer. And I'll do whatever it takes to get myself healthy enough to invite you to get healthy so that we can have a different kind of relationship. That's the first hope, that we can do this differently, because I'm not going to do it the same way anymore.
Awareness. I keep thinking of the existential approach. Remember the awareness, accepting personal responsibility, and then you can expect freedom after that. So you say that throughout your book, that each one has to become aware of the part they are playing in the destructive relationship. The person, especially that's doing the enabling, as she has admitted to doing.
Right. Well, the very first step is you have to become aware you're in a destructive relationship. You know, oftentimes people don't even know that they're in a destructive relationship. That feels normal to them. It's the only thing that tells them that they're in a destructive relationship is their gut. Because inside they feel like they're going crazy, or they're feeling that they're dying. And so that's really the first sign that people says, you know, I can't take this anymore, I'm depressed, I can't stand it, I can't live like this. And so it's helpful for them to have a name. I'm in a relationship that's destructive. And actually in the book I have a test, but on my website I give a free test. People can go on the website and just take a free test. Are you in a destructive relationship? So that'll give them some clues as to if they're in one and what kind of destructive relationship, so that they can become aware, okay, this is me. And now the next step is, what's my part? What am I going to do differently to change this pattern?
All right, and then she also says that much health and heart demise has been her burden. Destructive relationships do affect us physically.
Well, they absolutely
physically,
do.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but they're very hard on a person physically, and especially the heart.
Well, you know, recent studies on our physiological well-being have shown that stress is a killer. It's a toxic thing, especially relational stress. When you are living with someone who is toxic, it's like being in a toxic environment, and it affects you on the very cellular levels of your being. It's a contributor to heart disease as well as other kinds of things. Not only physically, but mentally. You lose your ability to think clearly. You don't trust your own judgment anymore. You start to question whether that really happened or didn't happen, because in the reality that you're in, someone's saying it didn't happen that way, and you think, wow, I thought it did happen. It also affects you relationally, and one of the saddest things, Freda, is it affects the children generationally. They learn those same old destructive patterns and carry them on to the next family.
Carry them down. Another point that she makes is that she needs validation, an ongoing need for her and so many others. So if she can't get it at home, we would suggest that she find a support group. I'm very strong on finding a support group of some kind in any given situation.
Well, you know, often people in destructive relationships are very isolated, and God says that we are both broken in relationship and we're also healed in relationship. And so if someone's feeling very isolated, they need to get into a church, they need to get into a support group, they need to find people that will support them and encourage them and help them to nourish and thrive.
She would need to find a group that would not, as it were, look down on her piously. Right. And the first question they ask her doesn't need to be, why have you stayed in such a relationship? That is so common to be asked. It can be used as she learns to ask herself that, but if that question is asked, it should not be in a way that they're passing judgment,
right,
a shaming way on them. It's time for a break. Stay with us and we'll be right back. As a new therapist, I soon began seeing women who were experiencing severe abuse from their husbands. They had no bruises or broken bones. Instead, they were depressed, fearful, confused, ashamed, feeling down on themselves, and holding little hope related to their marriages. Instead of physical abuse, their husbands' tongues and other behaviors became their weapons as they sought to control by intimidation, ridicule, put-downs, sabotaging their relationships with their children, angry outbursts, and threats of physical harm. The reality is that verbal, psychological, and sexual abuse can be more destructive, although not as dangerous as physical abuse. Instead of being battered, beaten, dragged, shoved, kicked, or raped, emotionally abused spouses or partners are battered, beaten, and raped verbally and emotionally, ending up with broken hearts instead of broken bones, with damaged emotions and low self-esteem instead of visible bruises, being stripped of their personhood instead of being physically raped. I have had clients tell me that they would rather take a physical beating because broken bones and bruises can heal, wherein the constant emotional and psychological assaults continue to keep their inner wounds open and bleeding. Is there help for destructive relationships of all kinds? Yes, but one or both partners in the relationship must accept the truth that their relationship is destructive. There is hope and help when either the abuser or abused is willing to accept the truth of their situation and seek professional help. Most often, it will require that the abused take responsibility for their healing and freedom and seek appropriate help to end the abuse. This might require exiting the relationship either temporarily or permanently if the abuser refuses to cooperate in making necessary changes. Sadly, many women have turned to their pastors for help, only to be reminded that it is their duty to submit to their abusive husbands. Children of religious leaders too often relate, growing up in a home where their pastor or missionary father beat them and their mother regularly, or subjected them to emotional and psychological abuse. The truth is that Christian wives and children are not commanded by the Scriptures to submit to such controlling and authoritative behavior. I challenge you, if you are the abuser, to get honest with yourself and seek to find the root of your abusive behavior. And if you are the abused, I challenge you to accept full responsibility for your freedom, healing, and emotional health. The Apostle Paul asserted, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free." stand firm and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Thank you for staying with us on Time for Hope. Our guest is Leslie Vernick, and we're talking about her book, The Emotionally Destructive Relationship. Leslie, let's say that I am aware that I am in a destructive relationship. I've come to realize I'm an enabler. I've also learned to speak up, as you suggest in your book, and even stand up, and sometimes, I believe, step back, as you suggest. All of this I've done, and yet there's no change. No change. What do you suggest at that point?
Well, you know, this is a hard thing, and I just want to encourage your listeners. I'm not only a professional in practice dealing with lots of people in destructive relationships. I've been in a destructive relationship. Growing up, my mother was very abusive. She was bipolar. She was an alcoholic, and so she was very destructive to her children, and me especially, perhaps because I had the biggest mouth and I stood up to her the most. I got most of her wrath. And even as an adult, I could not have a constructive conversation with her. She was very demeaning. She was very shaming. She was extremely disrespectful, and it was difficult. She never attended our wedding. She never saw her grandchildren. And so what I had to do is, after I spoke up and I stood up, I had to eventually step back. And Jesus gives us this principle where he says, you know, if someone sins against you, go to them and try to reconcile. And if they refuse to hear you, he says, bring other people who can help you to support you. And if they refuse to hear you, he says, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. And what I believe Jesus is teaching there is that the relationship changes. It's not that you don't care about pagans and tax collectors anymore. It just means that you don't have close fellowship with those people. Jews never trusted pagans or tax collectors. They would never have close fellowship. And so you need to distance yourself from that person, either physically or emotionally, so they don't continue to inflict that kind of damage. And you might have to distance yourself long enough to get healthy. Even though I was a therapist and I was a Christian, I still wasn't healthy enough to be in her presence without completely being demoralized by her and then having to struggle with lots of feelings of anger and bitterness and self-pity and all of that stuff. And so I needed to back up and distance myself long enough in order for myself to heal and grow healthier, so that much later in life, 15 years later, I could finally be in her presence without her affecting me the same way. And eventually I was able to reconcile with her, but that took a long time. And I think sometimes we put a burden on people that, you know, you've got to forgive and reconcile and just continue to live in that toxic environment. And you're just not capable. You're not healthy enough to do it.
It's a disattachment that must take place. We not necessarily detach ourselves, because we can't. You can't detach from a mother.
Right.
She birthed you,
Right.
but you can disattach. You can, as you have said. And then you talk about releasing and letting go. That has to do with acceptance, doesn't it?
Well, you know, healthy people, Freda, live in reality. And so what I had to let go of is the fantasy that I wanted my mother to be this wonderful mother who was going to come visit me and take care of her grandchildren and send them presents at Christmas time. I mean, it wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen in my childhood. It wasn't going to happen in my adulthood. And I had to let go of that fantasy. And did I grieve? And I didn't want to let go of it, because she should be that way and she should want to be that way. And there's nothing wrong with me wanting a good mother, but it wasn't reality. And so healthy people live in reality and they let go of fantasy. Healthy people learn to let go of negative feelings. And so I had to own my bitterness, my resentment, my lack of forgiveness. I had to let go of those things, or they were going to poison me. My mother didn't care if I felt those feelings. I was the one who was being held prisoner by them. And so I had to do the work to let go of them. And I also had to let go of the lies that felt like truth, like I was no good, that I could do nothing right, that I was never going to amount to anything. And sometimes destructive people, in their own pain and their own sickness, say things that are very hurtful, and we stick it in our brain and it just goes round and round and round, and we keep it there. And so I had to learn to let go of those things. I love the verse in Psalm 107:20 where it says, he sent forth his words and healed them. And words can destroy us, but words can heal us, and the best words are God's words, because he's the only one who always tells us the truth.
You know, Leslie, one of the things that I appreciated in your book, you didn't tell everybody that's in a destructive relationship to pack up and get out. You left it to the individual to decide. And one of the things I picked up on that I have always taught is that as long as you are aware of why you're doing what you're doing, that goes a long ways in living with a choice that you have made.
Absolutely, and I use the story of Abigail. Abigail didn't have a lot of choices in that culture in the Bible, but yet she stayed with he's called a surly and a wicked man, Nabal. And yet Abigail is described as a beautiful and intelligent woman. So somehow she was able to be very much aware of who her husband was. She lived in reality. She didn't live in fantasy that he was going to change into some sort of benevolent husband. But she did not allow his evil to destroy her. And I love the verse in Romans 12 where it says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And she didn't overcome Nabal's evil, but what she overcame was his evil in her. That as he tried to make her into something bitter and spoiled because of his behavior, she didn't let it happen. And
actually, it probably helped make her into the person that she was. I sometimes see that a person can become the opposite of what the abuser is trying to make them into
if we're
by
conscious.
God's grace,
Yes.
by God's grace,
Yes.
and relying on the resources that we have in Christ. Then we can allow it to work the opposite in our hearts and lives. And I'm sure you would suggest that also in the situations where people make the choice to remain in a relationship rather than get out of it. But both of us would have to admit there comes a time when sometimes there's no choice but to exit a relationship,
that's
at
the
least
best choice. Right, at least temporarily.
At least temporarily.
Even if you only exit for a day, you're saying, I won't let myself be treated this way. Bye, I'm going to the hotel for tonight. Even if you just do that, that can be a huge statement.
I agree with that. It's good having you.
Thank
Again, a great job in the book, a much needed book. I can understand why it's being reprinted, and the Lord bless
Thank
you
you.
as
Thank
you write some more. And we look forward to your joining us again on Time for Hope next week.
A free fact sheet that contains additional information about today's topic is available upon request from our ministry. You can also receive a copy of today's resource for $11 plus $3 shipping and handling. To receive the free fact sheet or our guest's book or both, you may call us at 1-800-669-9133. Write us at Post Office Box 2169, Spartanburg, South Carolina 29304. Or visit our website at timeforhope.org. When you call or write, please prayerfully consider a donation to our ministry. Our ministry's mission is to offer hope to discouraged and hurting people. As we continue to give out messages of hope, you can become a member of our team by sending us a financial gift of any amount. When you send your gift to support Time for Hope, you are joining us in offering hope to many viewers who might believe there is no hope for their situation. And you're also enabling us to inform and inspire some viewers to expand our mission as they learn and in turn can minister more effectively to hurting people around them. Until next time, have a great week, and remember, it is time for hope.